Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Everything is Bad new Fangled motion picture show.
Well, it's once again the end of an era of superhero moviedom.
Yep.
Twice in 1 year.
Mm.
This time of the X-Men. The Fox Studios franchise. Rather, not like, any of the cartoons or comics or anything, but specifically of the Fox Studios X-Men movies. Right, this is it, we're done?
I think so.
Oh, thank God.
Although they did leave it open in case they actually do make another one.
I really hope they don't. Anyway, so if you haven't caught on, we're here to review Dark Phoenix. It's just Dark Phoenix, right? It's not X-Men Dark Phoenix, it's just Dark Phoenix.
I think so.
Yep.
Yeah.
Alright. So we're gonna be doing our normal thing that we do here on the Everything is Bad Newfangled Motion Picture Show, where we do a spoiler-free review and then give you a spoiler warning and get more in depth into it after that.
Yeah.
I am Niall.
And I'm Nolan.
Excuse me. And this movie is not great.
It is actually better than I was expecting, but it's still not that good a movie.
It's been getting really bad reviews.
I was expecting a lot worse based off of what people had said about it, but so it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be going into it. I mean, it wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible either.
It had some really cool spots of like displaying the abilities or the powers of some of the mutants.
The way they used the powers, especially in fight sequences, a lot of it was really cool. They did some really cool stuff in like working together with their powers, and just the use of powers in fights was pretty good. I enjoyed that stuff quite a bit.
There were a couple of fights,
especially Nightcrawler used him really effectively.
Yeah, there were a couple of fights that were kind of hard to follow.
There's also,
but yeah, for the most part, they were really good.
They didn't fights. Utilize Quicksilver that much. Not like in the previous two movies.
Where in each really one, cool. he had a big deal scene, and in this one, they had set up like he was about to do some really cool thing like that.
Mm-hmm. And they just cut him off at the ankles.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that gets cut
figuratively.
Short. Like
they didn't really cut him off at the ankles.
No, but it was kind of the punchline of the scene is that his thing gets cut short. Although there was one instance too, right at the beginning of the movie, where he got to do a thing like that, but it was real short.
Yeah. But yeah, other than that, and then I guess everyone's performances were all right. I didn't think anyone was really going to get in too bad.
The acting was all fine. I mean, like the cast though, you wouldn't expect anything less from them. James McAvoy is a great actor. Michael Fassbender is basically a perfect being. So, although I half expected Jennifer Lawrence to just sort of phone it in.
Yeah, she wasn't too bad. I was expecting her to, but yeah, maybe there's like one or two where she could have maybe given a better performance, a couple scenes, but for the most part, she was fine. But yeah, I know she'd been talking about like wanting out of the X-Men franchise.
Well, so. The makeup is apparently just
the worst
to deal with.
Yeah. And for a character whose like big deal is to not hide her powers, so she like throws them out there openly, you can't really have her like out of the makeup without ruining that aspect of the character. So yeah, there's that. But yeah, overall there were some good things in there, but the story was kind of meh, and
it was also a little too short. The last half felt pretty rushed.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, like
it was a little under 2 hours.
Dark Phoenix is like one of the biggest X-Men storylines.
Right, well, they kind of rebooted every once in a while. Like, the first one, like, people talk about, oh, Dark Phoenix is great. Then if you, like, go and watch a video that, like, sort of sums up the first Dark Phoenix arc, it's actually kind of dumb.
Yeah.
But, so, there's that. I think, it did an okay job with it. Yeah, it's just, and the effects were good in it. Yeah, but the story was just kind of meh. It's not like the big. I was expecting, like, since this was possibly the last one, I expected them to just go like all out.
Yeah, it's a
no
pretty,
holds barred.
Pretty small story.
Like, it really is.
You know,
I was expecting a bigger movie out of this.
I mean, the whole movie. I don't think it's really much of a spoiler to tell you that, like, obviously they go into space at the beginning of the movie. That's in the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that, and then most of the rest of the movie takes place, like, on the grounds of the Xavier Institute, in like this like rundown working class suburban neighborhoods somewhere.
Yeah,
and like on Magneto's like
his island,
his mutant paradise island.
I forget the name of the island that's in the comics.
And then this house in New York.
Yeah,
right?
so
actually, that's where like
Age of Apocalypse was a bigger movie.
Oh, much bigger.
It's just the bigger set pieces, broader scope. This is
more actors.
Yeah, for a movie that, you know, is going to be like the end of it all. It really was kind of small.
Yeah, and there's
and that's really my biggest complaint with it. Like I said, the movie isn't as bad as a lot of people are saying.
Yeah,
but it's just kind of,
especially when you consider that, like, the X-Men movies were the original ensemble superhero movies. You know,
the first ones that did well.
Yeah, and the other movies have been big, grandiose, like larger scale movies.
Yeah, this just kind of has a small feel to it.
Like, this one had of the X-Men, this one had Professor X, Mystique, Beast, Jean Grey, Cyclops, Storm, Quicksilver, and Nightcrawler. And that's it. You know, it had like the absolute main X-Men, except for Wolverine, although he's really kind of a sometimes X-Man.
Well, in this storyline, he hasn't even been out of the. He's like been Weapon X up until just a few years prior, right? Because they released him from the facility in the previous movie.
I don't even remember. I guess
or it was Days of Future. Shoot, they're starting to run together.
In Days of Future Past, he had a brief cameo, right, in the bar. Where
that was First Class.
Was that first? Yeah, that was First Class.
There's a part in one of the recent movies where they release him from. He's like, they find him and he's been turned into Weapon X and he's being experimented on, and they release him and he like runs out into the snow somewhere.
Yeah.
Was that in Apocalypse?
I don't remember, man. I saw Apocalypse once, and that was such a terrible movie. I never wanted to see it again.
Anyway, I think this is a better movie than Apocalypse.
Yeah, it's definitely a better movie than Apocalypse, but yeah, you expect something that's supposed to be like the end of this ensemble, like by its very nature, an ensemble superhero movie series. You know, you expect the last hurrah to be something huge and grandiose.
I'm not saying it has to be as big as Endgame.
Right, but and especially in the same year that Endgame comes. I mean, this movie was originally supposed to release between Infinity War and Endgame. So how do you do that? You know? Yeah, I mean, I get that it could have just been a difficult thing to go up against that.
Yeah.
For the directors to deal with, but yeah, I mean, it just felt like such a small movie. Which is fine for single hero movies, especially if they're a smaller time hero like Ant-Man or Spider-Man, where like they normally deal with stuff on a small like
Yeah.
smaller problems, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Uh yeah, it's just I think that's really where this movie falls flat on.
Yep.
Let's see.
And that's because the issue is actually a big world-threatening event, but they don't really make it feel that way.
Yeah. Well, there's one person who realizes that the level of threat of the situation,
Yeah.
and that's Jean Grey, and that's it. So, but yeah, just this was 20 years in the making, right? The first X-Men movie came out in '99.
Somewhere around then, yeah.
Uh,
Sounds about right.
and it just 2000.
2000?
Yeah, 2000. So yeah, just about 20 years in the making, and it's just sort of a lackluster end to it, So I mean, we'll see. There's people speculating that the mentioning of the multiverse in the Spider-Man Far From Home trailer is sort of going to start laying the groundwork for bringing the X-Men from their universe into the MCU. But it was also Mysterio who said it, so who the hell knows?
Yeah.
Well, I'll believe it when I see it.
We'll see.
And I mean, anything else we could say without spoiling anything?
No, not really.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
It's an alright movie. There are better action movies out right now. I mean, hell, Endgame's still in theater.
Yeah, if you need your superhero fix, and you're miraculously haven't seen Endgame.
How's that a miracle?
Well, I don't know. You watched
like
Good Omens. You watched Good Omens. Demons create miracles too.
Yeah, I suppose so. Alright, yeah, so spoiler warning?
Yep, spoiler warning.
Henceforth are spoilers. Yeah, I mean, I personally don't really have a whole lot more to add even in the spoiler bit.
No, not really.
There was an original mutant character in there that was...
He used his dreadlocks as like whips.
Yeah, it was kind of lame.
Yeah.
It was kind of a stupid
Mutation?
Power. Yeah, mutation.
One thing I thought was weird is they had all these shots of like a bunch of students at the Xavier Institute, and none of them had like physical mutations. Like you should sprinkle throughout them a few of them that look weird.
Yeah, like
spines coming out of their heads or something.
Yeah, like you're gonna have you're gonna have a lot of mutants that like are psychics or like have fire powers or whatever, but otherwise look normal. But you still have in the comics a lot of mutants that are blue or other weird colors or have shit growing out of them.
I mean, just on the X-Men team, there are 3 blue people.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was kind of like lackluster, and I was like, you just cast a bunch of kids, but you can't put like a prosthetic on 1 or 2 of them.
Yeah. So this movie takes place in 92?
Yeah, 1992.
Yeah, I wonder why they just I guess if you still want to have Professor X and Magneto in there, you can't really go much past that year.
Not without recasting them.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you want them in your movie and doing anything, because if you put it in the modern era, geez, Magneto would be almost 100 years old, or like 90 years old, something like that.
Yeah, well, he was a child in
42, right? Was that when his family was put in the camp?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
So yeah, he'd be almost 90 years old, probably.
Although he's looking really good for How old is he supposed to be in
60
this?
something, like 60 years old about, I think.
Yeah.
Almost 60. Yeah, he's looking pretty good for that. Yeah, it's just I get why if they're going to keep going forward with X-Men without completely rebooting everything, in which case you have to completely rewrite Magneto's backstory. You cannot have X-Men set much further into past that.
Yeah, well, that's why in the comics, both Magneto and Professor X are gone. They're like permadead.
Yeah,
They haven't been around for a long time. So yeah, good luck finding either of them in the comics. But so I mean, there's a point where I guess they're like, well, since backstory, Professor X's backstory is intrinsically tied to Magneto's. Magneto's backstory is intrinsically tied to the Holocaust.
right.
You can't. There's a point where you just can't move forward with the character. You have to kill him off.
Yeah. So if they want to keep these characters in, and by all means, I mean, I love James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender. I think they're great in these roles. And I think they're great actors in general. But yeah,
Well, they kind of retired in this.
right.
Charles, he left the X-Men. They changed the name to the Jean Grey Institute, which happens in the comics.
Right.
And he's just sort of retired, and
Beast takes over as headmaster.
yeah. And then I think currently where they're at in the comics, actually, Kitty Pryde is the headmaster. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. And then Magneto is presumably living on his island mostly, but he leaves long enough to go sit and play a game of chess with Charles on a Canadian street made up to look like a Parisian street.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's supposed to be a Parisian street, but I know it was filmed in Quebec.
Yeah. I mean, you can make any street look like Paris as long as you just put the Eiffel Tower in the background, right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could see them wanting. I mean, I understand the idea of wanting to put all the Marvel back under one umbrella. You know, you could do so much with
the House of
the
M,
series
as
that
it
way.
were.
The House of M.
It's one of those big crossover events years
Right.
ago.
Yeah. And I could see them potentially doing that if they're going to start introducing this multiverse stuff. I mean, to me, the way to have done it is to do Secret Wars. I mean, you have a big summer comic event built in to literally smash the multiverse into each other to put everyone in the same place.
Yeah, like they did with Secret Wars 2, and they just brought everything together into one universe.
Exactly.
Instead of having all the multiple ones that they did.
Exactly. So, yeah, we'll see what they do with the series going forward. There's no way that they're going to stop making X-Men movies altogether. It's too big of a comic book staple, you know. It's
Yeah,
I could see this being the end of this X-Men series, this X-Men universe, and then rebooting the whole thing within the MCU. I could also see them taking this existing one as it is and using multiverse pseudoscience stuff, moving them into the MCU. I just wonder how they're going to handle Deadpool in that situation, because Deadpool exists in this universe.
Yeah.
Also, when are we going to get a Longshot movie?
Also a good question, yes.
I mean, we know the Mojoverse exists within the X-Men canon.
Because of Deadpool?
Yep. Because of Deadpool 2.
Right.
So, I don't know. There's a lot they could do with it going forward. There's just not really an obvious direction that is clearly set up for it.
Yeah, and
But this movie was also pretty much finished well before the acquisition by Disney.
Yeah.
I heard some people in the theater saying that they felt like Disney interfered with this movie and had them cut down on the use of Quicksilver because they have a Quicksilver in their universe. And I'm like, well, Scarlet Witch is dead in the X-Men universe, right? And
Was she ever even introduced in the X-Men universe?
actually, I don't even remember.
I don't think she was.
Yeah.
But Quicksilver's dead in the MCU.
So who the hell cares?
Yeah, so there's no reason for Disney to
But
do
also, the movie was completely wrapped well before they even started talking about this acquisition. In fact, I think it was wrapped before was it AT&T Warner that that had option to buy Fox and prompted Disney to come along and buy it.
that. I don't remember.
So I don't think the Disney acquisition had anything to do with any decisions made in this movie.
I don't think so either. And when Disney, whenever they do something with the X-Men, whatever they do, reboot or bring this, it's got to be great because it has to be better than what Fox is doing with it. Otherwise, there's this whole fan base is just going to get really upset with them. They're like, oh, they went and ruined it. So, there's going to be that argument, oh, they went and ruined the X-Men and all this stuff. Well, so it's got to be better than what Fox has been doing with it.
Not hard. Fox does
Right.
not have a very great track record.
There
with the
are a
X-Men.
few of them that I think are pretty good movies.
Yeah,
and then the rest of them
Class,
are not
Days
so
of
good.
Future Past are great movies. X-Men 2 is a great movie.
Logan's a great movie.
Logan's a really great movie. But the rest of them are pretty bad. X-Men Origins Wolverine is really bad. Age of Apocalypse is really bad. So I don't see how they could possibly ruin this franchise more than Fox already has. They might make a movie that's just kind of okay,
Yeah.
like they did with Captain Marvel, but I don't see them making a just genuinely bad X-Men movie. But
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see what happens. Yeah, so that's Dark Phoenix. Anything else you have to say about it?
Nah, not really.
Yeah. So, yeah, what's the next movie we're going to review is Rocket Man. But everything is bad, you might say. That movie came out last week, and you're right. Deal with it.
Yeah. We got lives, we can't go to movies all the time.
The next movie we're going to do is going to be The Dead Don't Die. So we managed to get some tickets to a slightly early screening. Although it's not even the earliest screening, because I'm pretty sure they premiered it at like South by Southwest or Sundance or something.
Yeah.
And then after that, we're going to be doing Men in Black International. And at some point, we're seeing Shaft.
The Men in Black will probably be kind of a late review, though.
Probably.
So Shaft as well.
Yeah. And then the following week is Toy Story 4. And then yesterday. And that rounds out our month of June. And then Spider-Man Far From Home. Stuber might actually be a little early as well, possibly. And then
The Art of Self-Defense looks good.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? And let's see, Lion King in July, which is probably going to be a good movie because it looks like a shot-for-shot remake of the original, and it's Jon Favreau, so I mean, I kind of suspect that there's just a bunch of producers at Disney that are just sort of telling him exactly what they want him to do anyway. And then that month gets rounded out with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. You gotta have the pause in there. The ellipses. So yeah, that's what we got coming up. If any of that sounds of interest to you, hit the alert button. It's one that looks like a bell.
Did you hear a little ringy dingy?
That way you'll be alerted when a new video of ours goes up. Or just come back. I just honestly look at my subscription list and they put the little dot next to every channel that has a new video. So I end up manually checking stuff because it stopped just showing me the new stuff anyway. Whatever. The ways of YouTube are mysterious and strange. So, yep. Anything else?
No.
No? Alright, cool. Until next time. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Toodles.